Would you like to know here's how the sun rises and sets in different places.
Right.
So Florida State falls to 1-7 after getting throttled by Miami, although in the first half they held their own better than I thought they would.
That's cute.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought.
That's cute.
Yeah, that's cute. Man, just
sorry.
God, they suck so
They're
hard.
They're terrible, dude.
They're so bad. So bad. Although I do like Luke Kromenhoek, so I'm happy. I'm happy. Like, and keep my fingers crossed that he looks like he's a bit of a gamer. But they lost another 4-star commitment. It's almost as if you wouldn't you have the good season and you want to sign everybody right then and get them locked in so they can't change their mind after 13-0. But all the prospects that they've gotten for 2025 and 2026, they were like, hell yeah, Florida State's on the way up is diving. Well, you know what happened yesterday for Texas A&M?
Yeah, they
3
landed
4-star commitments.
3 of them, Paul.
Yeah. 3. Yeah. So you beat another big-time SEC team on national television and leave no doubt. There's no LSU fan walking around today saying, hey, we
coulda, shoulda, woulda.
We if this wouldn't have happened or that wouldn't have happened, no, got our asses
got
kicked.
Your ass whooped.
Yeah. Second half, A&M just kicked their ass. And so that's what happens when you have a leave no doubter like that. But yeah, let's go into the Big 12 this week, Garrett, since we've talked enough about the snobby conference. Mm-hmm. But the Big 12 this week, it's still very Big 12-y, right? It's still very Big 12-y. It's still very, we don't know what's going to happen. Although the odds makers were wrong on a couple of things this week. One, TCU won the game, but that 7-point line was wrong.
Right.
And I kind of was surprised about that. Also, UCF BYU could not have been more wrong on Vegas's part. I guess everybody keeps waiting for the other shoe to drop on BYU. I just don't think it's dropping. UCF and Oklahoma State are just plummeting, without any hope.
I also feel like the thing with BYU, they are being slept on, the national narrative. Everybody is waiting for that. But I also think with the matchup with them going to UCF, I feel remember the narrative, and it's cool, the whole Vampire Cougs and everything. It's cool to lean into that. But I feel like people were waiting for the time change and having to go play a day game and go over the two different time zones to bite them. That's just not happening. I think they're too fundamentally sound for little things like that to get in their way. It's going to take somebody. It's really going to take Retzlaff having a bad game, which he hasn't been. It's weird because he's good, but he's not elite or anything.
I mean, he's not Shedeur Sanders, but he's good.
He's good. He just doesn't make mistakes. Yeah. And with getting their rushing attack established has been a game changer as well. I don't know why people keep sleeping on him, but I think that kind of played into it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, I think that, you look at their schedule for the rest of the year. Okay, they've got the week off this week. Mm-hmm. Then they have the Holy War.
Which sucks.
Utah just lost to Houston.
I hate with the Holy War because I was so excited for that. I think everybody was, right? You wanted it to be both teams really good. I'm just interested on what the luster or the attention is going to be for that game because with the way Utah is, it's kind of lost all of its interest.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely it has. Kansas, who has led in the fourth quarter in every game but one. In that game, they led in the third quarter against TCU and is 2-6. So they have to win out to get to a bowl game.
I don't think that's happening.
The other night, I kept wanting to tell, I'm sure Lance Leipold's their kicker, if we get him within 50, is going to make this, right? So as long as we keep him outside of 50 yards, don't let him get there. Right. They only need to play for a field goal, and it's the defense didn't quite get that memo.
Didn't comprehend.
They're not Kansas State can play for whatever happens. If they get a big gain on one of these plays, they can kick a field goal. If they don't, or I mean, if they do, they can go over the touchdown. If not, they can kick a field goal if they're, at the 35-yard line and in. And that's what happened, obviously. So, yeah, you need to put a wall at the 38-yard line and make sure they don't get there.
Right.
Make them kick a ridiculously long field goal. And if they make it, sometimes, like, if a kicker's going to kick a 60-yard field goal, you're like, well.
Charge it to the game.
More power to you. Not much else we can do other than keep you to the 40 on the other side. Mm-hmm. But, but Utah, I don't know. If I had to I'll probably make the top 5 most disappointing teams in the Big 12 for Wednesday's top 5. And I'll really have to think about who's the most disappointing. Utah, Kansas, UCF, Oklahoma State.
To me, I think it's got to be
it's probably
Utah, Oklahoma State, and UCF. I think those are probably the 3 most disappointing teams. But are you really surprised, like the more we think about this, that I haven't been sold on Mike Gundy for a while. I always kind of think he's fool's gold, and I guess I know that's my expectations as a fan of a program who's won national championships, yada, yada, yada. I just don't see how somebody can constantly be mediocre and you want to just keep holding on to him. Like, I don't understand that from a fan base perspective. But, like, are we surprised that it seems like the game has passed him by? Seems like it's passed by Kyle Whittingham. You both rode with, like, 28-year-old quarterbacks. Are we really surprised in reality that it's turned out the way it has?
I'm not. I am for Utah because I thought I bought into, if Cam Rising's really coming back to play, he must be healthy now. But none of these injuries are the injury that he had last year.
Yeah, it's all new stuff.
They're all new stuff. And so I'm of the belief that if you're 25 and still in college and weren't a minor league baseball player, then you probably need to move on from this guy. I mean, I'm not I know that there's plenty of outliers. I know, when I say not a minor league baseball player, that gives me the Drew Hensons and
but they're
Chris
few and
Winkies
far
of the
between.
world. But I'm still trying to be I'm outside of that's not the norm.
Right.
Quincy Carter was a really good college quarterback, but that's kind of not really what happens anymore either. So. If you are 25, 26 years old and you're a college quarterback still, it means you're not an NFL quarterback.
No.
Because they would have gotten you before then.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm COVID years and all that stuff. If you are NFL caliber, I mean, look, Anthony Richardson would still be the starter at Florida this year, and he totally should be.
He should be, yes.
He should have stayed. But the NFL told him, you're ready. We're picking you in the top 10. What's he supposed to do? You gotta go. You gotta go and get that money.
Did he miss the NIL window?
No, he was right there at the beginning of it. So, but no, I mean, even NIL window. If you're the 3rd pick in the draft, like he was.
But I think that's what sucks because sometimes you got to have some better hindsight, right? You got to. I know you want to be confident and you want to be in a situation where a lot of times you need the money for your family, but you got to sometimes have that hard conversation with yourself. Do I need this extra year of development? Can that wait? And I know there's always the risk of getting hurt or stuff, but if it could benefit you longer to, sit out a year and have a more sustained career where you can make money longer than going in and taking a quick pay jump. I don't know. I just have to think about that.
I can just tell you that Billy Napier's life and Anthony Richardson's life would be a lot different now had he stayed for just one more year.
Absolutely would.
Just one more year. This would be the year where they have to go get Graham Mertz, but.
Well, hell, they wouldn't have to because you would have had Lagway there.
But, even then, you get a Graham Mertz to, make sure, but it's Anthony Richardson and then that, that would be very different.
Yeah.
But clearly not the case. And look, even when they had Anthony Richardson, they were still not that
wasn't
great
flawless, no.
that year. I mean, they, if you remember, they went 6-7 because – once he, they weren't going to win the bowl game once he opted out, right? And so, but yeah, and to tie that back into the Big 12, I watched Alan Bowman the other day in person, and
it's not it.
His numbers are deceiving because you look at it and you're like, oh, well, he threw for 359 yards.
He's got good receivers.
But yeah, that was, of that 359, 183 was Brennan Presley being ridiculously good. I think I texted you guys that
he deserves
better than Alan Bowman.
Yes,
he really does. He really, really does.
I think all of them do.
Yeah. They all deserve better than, like, Rashad Owens, really good wide receiver. Stribling, really good. He didn't have a great game the other day, but, I mean, when Brennan Presley has 15 catches, like, that's what's going on. Brennan Presley by himself was keeping them in that game. I mean, absolutely by himself. By the way, there's 2 guys that were 0 for Oklahoma State, and the one who plays on defense was walking to the locker room, like, down where the medical area is, like he was going to get an x-ray, and he had his helmet, like, he was, like, taking it off, and I was about to text everybody, like, oh, crap, Ollie Gordon's going to get x-rayed because he's holding his arm. And then, like, literally the next second, I see him run for, like, 5 yards, and I was like, wait, what, are there 2 of them? Did he, like, split at the cellular level, like a multiple man, and go do that? I don't know. But, yeah, I didn't notice. It's the first game, and I went up and got it at halftime, but it's the first game outside of the FSU game where I haven't sat with a flip card in front of me.
Yeah.
You want to talk about a crutch, man.
Yeah, it is.
It's a crutch. I had to go up and grab one. I can't sit. I was like, I can't sit here anymore. And somebody was like, do you want a program? I'm like, you mean pay for one? No.
Not at all.
Hold on. It's halftime. I just have to wait for the coaches to get down the elevator.
We're going to do a thing real quick.
I'll be up. I'll be up in a second. So, but on the other side of that Oklahoma State coin, who they're plummeting, Baylor is playing confident right now. The last 2 weeks are the first time I can say they play confident. They know what they can do. They played within themselves, like all those buzzwords. And they have leaders on the team that they didn't have before, clearly. Like, there's leadership stepping up. There's a cohesive message. And that's what Dave, like, the disconnect, I think, between Dave and the players were, how do you get these guys to all buy in? Because when he took over, he had a bunch of rule guys who had built it up, right? They were on a mission to finish that.
Right.
They knew how good that they could be because they just experienced it before the COVID year. They knew in 2019, we were right here on the door. 2020, nobody begrudges anybody for that because it was a nightmare. But now we know who we are, and we can go win this league, and they did. So he didn't have to do any culture building then. He just had to do, like, he just had to water the garden and make sure it didn't die, right? He just had to go out there and make sure, all right, good deal, here you go. Here's your Miracle Grow, here's your water. All right, I'm just going to sit here and wait for the, for the flowers to bloom, and that's what happened. He didn't have to do any of that outside of, hey, let's throw last year in the trash. Everybody else is, except the team that won. No one else is going to look back on it and go, oh, man, that year we didn't play all the games, that was my favorite. Like, that's over. And once he had those guys, he had leaders established, the Jalen Petries and Terrell Bernards and all those guys, it was easy for them to just run in a straight line right to the Big 12 championship. This team has not experienced, I mean, some of them were on that team, but has not experienced consistency like that.
No, they haven't. I also think one of the biggest differences in like the past couple, well, obviously, first and foremost, the schedule strength has changed. That's they're not playing the top caliber teams. They took their licks early. They learned from that. They had time off. They've adjusted. They've gotten healthy. The back half of the schedule is something they can manage and take care of. Now, being able to do, saying all that, being able to do it are two totally different things because we haven't seen them. Now we're starting to see it. I also think one of the biggest differences with this team is the players that you've brought in from the transfer portal weren't hitting. Now they're starting to hit. You see, you got Ashton Hawkins, and he's going up and making ridiculous catches. Hal Presley.
Hal Presley is, again, he's got good speed, not great. Like he's as fast as you need him to be, maybe not as you maybe would want him to be, but he's a contested catch guy.
Yeah, and he hasn't lived up to it, and he's starting to do that, right? And if you look on defense, whether it's Trevin Maye that's flying around plugging things up, Steve Linton the past couple of weeks has looked really good. I think they've just gotten production from players that they weren't getting in the past, and maybe that's just confidence. Like you just don't feel it in yourself, and you start to get beat and you kind of get in your own head a little bit, and that's just not the case. But Sawyer Robertson's looked really good. There were times for me where it looked like he was the only person that was out there playing, and now that's not the case. I think it kind of speaks to where this program's at, where you heard the story of Josh Cameron going off in practice. I think that really kind of sparked people, because when you have a walk-on who's been leaving everything out there, like why aren't other people stepping up and doing that? And that's starting to be the case. But no, they're really fun to watch, man. And this is why you brought Jake Spavital in, right?
Yeah.
Like you wanted to have an explosive offense. It's taken time. I think they did a really good job of finding out a way to help their offensive line when they, in the off week where they went back to the wide zone and, alleviates the pressure there, getting their rushing attack going. Bryson Washington is a game changer when he's healthy. Like, it's just all clicking right now, and this is what it was supposed to be.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, here's the other thing, and I wouldn't be surprised if Jake Spavital maybe felt this a couple weeks ago, but when they probably knew that they could hit if they got all this right, that playing against a Texas Tech defense that we know is a problem,
right?
An Oklahoma State defense that is the second worst in the entire country. Yep. And then you got TCU, who's no great shakes on that side of the ball. Like, outside of this, you can maybe build some offensive confidence.
Absolutely can.
And not have to put it to where the defense has to make all these plays all the time and win the game. The defense hasn't had to worry about much the last couple
Well, they've actually got help. Yeah.
And they got help. So there's some balance coming back to this team. They're by no means a complete team, and they're a very middle-of-the-road team. They're very middle of the road right now. And then, look, their record says that. They're 4-4. They're an average team, but their averages are starting to be better.
Right.
And with TCU, West Virginia, Houston, and Kansas left, if they can at least go 2-2 through this stretch, then Dave Aranda should walk out the door himself and be like, yeah, I got it, because I get it. It's not going to work here. But I will make the argument that they should be at least 3-1 through this. I know it's hard to win 6 games in a row, when you're this kind of team. But the bottom line is, as I yell over a weed eater, the bottom line is the only team that you are playing that has any kind of upward trajectory right now, and it's only because of the last 2 weeks. The same thing. TCU, they're the same right now. Again, Baylor and TCU are, Romulus and Remus, two brothers separated at birth, right? Like that's what they are, and they just kind of, the Spider-Man meme, however you want to say it, that's what they are, and they're both pointed up right now. But West Virginia pointed down. Houston, I don't want to say pointed down, they just had a win, but that's not a team that you should lose to.
No.
Based on your roster versus their roster. And then Kansas can't get out of their own way.
No, not at all.
So of those 4, 2-2 is the bare minimum that you should do. That's the bare minimum. They should be 3-1 at least. And if they beat TCU this week, something that they never, ever do anymore, it's like once in a blue moon, they'll figure out a way to beat TCU. Look, the last time they beat them, Max Duggan had to step out of bounds with one cleat at the 2-yard line.
Yeah.
For them to beat them. Like, that's how they beat them. It was a good call, but they were a cleat away from losing that game. And this has not been the best rivalry for Baylor. They lose it constantly. Maybe having Gary Patterson on the staff for a couple of months might have pulled some of that bad juju away from it. But if they can find a way to contain Josh Hoover this week, run the ball again like they did, and TCU's defense is not good.
It's not great, no.
It's not great. The Tech carved them up. They should. If they beat TCU, there's no reason for them to lose. They could be standing at the end of the season 8-4 and feeling really good about themselves.
I mean, it's hard to really fathom it, but I think they can. I think they can beat TCU. I think they can win out, and it's going to be very difficult. But if you can't beat TCU now, it's kind of like what we were talking about with Lane Kiffin this whole time. Like, if you can't win this year, win. I feel like that's this matchup with Baylor and TCU. The way TCU is down, they're vulnerable. Baylor's kind of, I know both of them, you just said they both kind of got some momentum, but Baylor's got more of a momentum. I think Baylor is the more hungry team. I think Baylor can do it. Now, my only concern is if Baylor does pull this off and they beat TCU, would you rather not have that bye the following week and kind of carry that momentum, or do you think that bye kind of is a hiccup there?
I don't think it's a hiccup. I think it's probably
for the best.
I like the 2 bye weeks now that the schedule's like crazier and like all the travel, all that. I think it'll be good. And look, they haven't, they've never beaten West Virginia there, right? Or they don't. If they did, it's just once.
I don't think they have.
Yeah, like they've not. It's hard for them to win in Morgantown, but
Morgantown is not Morgantown this year.
Well, I mean, look, the fans have turned on their coach.
Yeah,
completely. He doesn't have the fans.
No,
right? Like there's not. This isn't like he can go to a swing state and be like, if I can just get Pennsylvania.
Not happening.
Like no, it's not the Electoral College. Like he has like in all 50 states of the West Virginia fandom, he has none of them. None of them. It's like FDR running against an actual cat. Like, not going to win. Not going to win. Like, you're just not going to do it. So, yeah. And, again, I don't know if Neil Brown is back or not or what Wren Baker decides. I feel like we know Wren Baker pretty well, and I know that he doesn't want to do that.
But I think it's kind of forced at this point.
I mean, it's, again, the fans are going to start voting with their enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Whether that's, and the thing is that because it's a fundraising thing now, you have to, meet them where they live on, okay, you want some more money? Do not hire a coach that says, I hope you guys, aren't you having fun in spite of all this?
It's not the place to say that.
No. And then here's the thing. West Virginia hauled off and won this week. Did they have the common decency to do it in front of their own fans?
Nope.
No. They did it all the way across the country in Arizona. Yeah. So doubly stings there. UCF, a mess. They're like Kansas is a mess.
Mm-hmm.
Kansas, I think, makes one different coordinator hire. I think Jalen Daniels probably comes back. He's not the problem. Like he's finally not rusty and healthy and all that. Although it would not terribly shock me to see him go
try it somewhere else. I can see that too. Like at this point, you've maxed it out there, and especially if they kind of keep Grimes on, what am I really benefiting? Like I would kind of look at that and say I want to go try it in somebody else's system.
Also, could a school like Miami
or Florida State?
Well, I think they've got a lot more in the way. No, I mean, they might try it, but like the things I look at are, okay, who's going to lose their starter this year and doesn't really have a backup plan. UCF, like Ja'Curry Brown, maybe, but like, what has he done in these 2 weeks to show you that he's a Big 12 level starter?
Correct.
Right. And he was already run out of Miami, so, is it UCF? Is it like Miami's losing Cam Ward? I know they feel good about the class they have coming in, but I know that they don't want to try to follow up because if they Miami's about to have the same thing happen to them roster-wise that Florida State did this year.
Yep.
I mean, Ward's gone. Restrepo's gone.
Martinez is
gone. Fletcher's gone. Most of that offensive line is gone. Ruben Bain's gone. Tyler Barron's gone. Like, the secondary, they're all gone. They're going to lose 10 to 15 starters. And, what do you have now that they're hot and they're Miami? Like, can you get a guy, maybe not Jalen Daniels, but who else is in that?
Right.
Okay, 1 year cash in, let me go try to win and get in the playoffs somewhere. Because I don't know if Kansas is – I mean, they've played a lot of close games, but are they, a couple of tweaks away from a playoff and Big 12 contender anymore?
I don't think so.
Or does it run deeper than that?
I think it's good. I think it runs deeper too because I mean, like the depth. There's teams right now that are so much further ahead of them. I know it's easier to fix your roster through the portal year by year, but I feel like there's teams in the Big 12 that are so much further ahead of Kansas right now. It's not an easy fix for them to catch up like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we'll see what happens there. All right, Garrett. Before we go, Tennessee is wearing blackout uniforms this week. Not an original idea, but the presentation to tie in with a very mediocre science fiction film that's coming out, but a cool Spider-Man villain in Venom. Watch this. This is really cool.
Put it on that beat. Oh.
Yeah, that was awesome.
I like that.
That was awesome.
I
That was
like
really
that.
cool. And look, the Venom movies, I know this third one's supposed to be the best one of the three, but again, that's like me and two other guys my exact size running a 100-yard dash and then being like, I won! Okay.
And
Congratulations. You're the fastest butterball.
God.
Great. If the zombie apocalypse happens, you'll at least outlive these two by a second.
There's hope.
There's hope. Maybe I can get to a well-sized hole to hide in.
Oh, my God.
But, yeah, no, I thought that was really awesome. It was really